Welcome back to another video. I've just got back from a 3-night stay in Salisbury with the missus, and on my way home I got reminded of a feeling that I used to get. We drove back on the M25 and we were stuck in traffic because the M25 is literally the UK's biggest car park, so there's always traffic there. But it took me all the way back to when I was 16 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old. And that's because I used to work on the streets selling bubble guns, selling fidget spinners, selling squishies, selling anything I could get my hands on to make me a couple pounds. And this all stemmed from my dad being an entrepreneur, if you want to call him that, or a businessman. But when he moved to England at the age of 21, so around 1990, 9 years before I was born, the first job he ever had was selling posters. Now, back then there was no really such thing as licensing, or if there was, he never really had one. And I hate to bait him out on here on the platform, but I'm sure it's okay now. But he used to take posters, put them on the ground in the middle of a high street and just sell them. And he used to make quite good money. And over the years, he went from just selling posters on the floor to posters on a stall that he made, to mobile phone covers, to toys, to a bunch of different products. The goal for him was never to have one product that made him money. It was whatever made money at the time, that's the product that he's going to sell. And so over the years he started on the streets, then went to shopping centres, started having stalls in shopping centres, and then eventually started owning shops. And right now, in this very moment, he's got a couple of shops in Israel selling headscarves for religious women and accessories, jewellery, and all sorts of that kind of stuff. If you've been following my page for a while, you'll know that I actually started this business with him, but then moved back in 2021 to do this. Sorry, 2023, my bad. But because that was the path that he was on, that then translated into the path that I was on, because I didn't really have any direction in life, and I just thought, well, I need to make money. And seeing as that was my dad's means of making money, that's how I started making money. So I'd build up a stall, go onto the streets of Cambridge or Oxford or Nottingham or Chelmsford, or there's so many different places that I've been to that I can't even remember the names. And I was only doing it to make money, and I made decent money over time. You know, I used to make £500 profit over a weekend, or £1,000 over a weekend. But I never liked it. I only did it because that's all I knew. That's all I knew. My dad showed me the way. I copied, I executed, I made a few pounds here and there, but it was never long term. It was always something that was like a short burst of money, a good craze or whatever. Squishies was probably my best year. Did quite well with these squishies. Don't know if you know what they are. They're like stress balls, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, and they were quite good. It was my last year at Nottingham Trent, my first year and last year, and it was during exam period, and I used to go on the streets and sell them there with my peddler's license. I did have a license to do it, and because of the fact that I was making decent money, I said, well, I don't need university. You know, this is how I'm going to make money. This is how I'm going to earn a living. But you know, over the years after that, I would go down to the streets of Cambridge and sell bubble guns and make a couple £100 there. Go to Croydon, make a couple £100 here. And I used to drive back on the M25 just like I did today in traffic, thinking to myself, I don't want to do this. I don't want to drive home for a whole hour, hour and a half, 2 hours after a full day of work just to make a couple £100. Like, this is not what I'm here for. This is not what I'm made for. I'm not enjoying it. I'm just doing it for the quick money. But this is not what I really want to do. And so eventually, it took me a very long time, but I had to get my shit together. And the only way to get your shit together is the thing that I actually want to talk to you about today. And I know that was a little bit of a long intro, but I think it's important that you get some context behind what I'm about to say and how I got here, because for you to understand where I'm coming from, you need to understand literally where I am coming from. And I was unhappy. I was unhappy with the job I had, even though I was self-employed, working for myself, deciding my own hours, deciding what products I would sell. Even though I have some businessman tendencies or entrepreneurial tendencies, and I love the game, this wasn't for me. All this traveling, going down the M25 for 1 hour, sitting in traffic, and I was telling my girlfriend I used to go in and out of cars just like this, like I could have died 100 times because I just wanted to get home. I didn't enjoy the drive home. I didn't like the job. And if you look at where my life went, even within the next few years after that, like I said, I started this new business with my dad, which he still owns now, and this is still his business, and he's doing well, and thank God he's very happy with it. But it got to a point where I even moved out to Israel to continue on this journey and continue on this path, even though I didn't like it. After years of being depressed, after COVID, during COVID, I eventually got a job that, felt right. I got a job as an estate agent. I was doing it for 2 months, agreed 9 deals in 2 months, doing sales. And then my dad was like, starting this new business. I said, okay, well, I'm doing my thing, like, don't worry about me. And, the weeks went by, and I was just like, actually, I'm not making so much money right now. I want to make more money. And so that's what it was about. So I flew over to Israel, and I started this business. With my dad, and that was the most depressing time in my life. And if you've been watching my YouTube and my Instagram, you'll learn that although it was a very depressing time in my life, I learned a lot about myself and about life, and I'm very glad it happened. However, that was on me to get myself out of being depressed, and that was by taking accountability. And I need you to understand that everything up until the point where I took accountability was my fault, and I didn't realize it was my fault, and that was why I was sad, and that was why I was depressed, and that was why I was unhappy with where I was in life and who I was, because I didn't take accountability. If you are unhappy with who you are and where you are, that's on you. That is completely on you. I'm 27, and it took me many years to realize this. And I used to complain all the time to my younger brother, saying that, we didn't have the best upbringing, or our parents never guided us the right direction and never gave us knowledge or experience handed down, and that's why we are who we are. But it gets to a point where you have to look yourself in the mirror and realize that you're an adult now. You're a big boy. And that means it's on you. Even if it's not on you, even if you are where you are because of someone else, it doesn't matter. That's not the mindset you have if you want to take things to the next level, if you want to grow. Because if it's somebody else's fault, then that somebody else or somebody else has to be the one to fix this issue. So the first thing in your life that you have to realize is that you are where you are because of you. But that's beautiful. That's one of the most beautiful things that you could ever realize. Because if you have the understanding that it's all your fault, then there's only one person that can get you out of this situation, and that's you. And now you've taken back all of the power, all of the control, all of the energy that you need to conquer, to get on a mission, and to every day fight for what you want. So have you asked yourself, what do you want? I'm very repetitive in my videos with what I want. I want to build my business. I want to build a family. I want to build a future. I'm very clear about what I want. Do you know what you want? Have you written down on a sheet of paper your goals and what you want? The actions you need to take to get there, to get what you want? Have you done any of these things whatsoever? That's a start. That is a bloody good start. Because then, realizing that it is your fault, that it's all your fault. Like I said, even if it's not actually your fault, take the accountability as a man. Understand that it is your fault. I don't know the exact story, but I'm pretty sure in the first ever story of the Bible, of the Torah, after Eve ate the apple, God didn't come to Eve and said, "What have you done?" Or didn't go to both of them and said, "What have you both done?" I'm pretty sure it went something along the lines of, "Adam, what have you done?" And that just goes to show that as a man, you need to take accountability and responsibility for not just yourself, but everything around you. So I really want you to deep that and understand that, because that gives you so much power. You know, every single day I wake up and I get after it. That's because I have the understanding that I can. And you need that belief. But the only way to build that belief is by taking action every single day. The only way to start taking action is to take accountability. You are where you are because of you. I'll say it over and over again to drill it in your head, because you need to really understand this. It's the only way. It's the only way to get out of your situation. Right now, I'm at a point in my life where I've built an incredible business, and I continue to build this business. In the past 4 months, I've done the same amount of money that I have done in my first year of business. Around the exact same, which is, for me, unbelievable that I've got myself to this point. You know, there were times in the beginning where I wanted to quit, where I found too hard. But I realized that if I really want to build something of myself, I need to put the work in. I need to stay strong physically, mentally. I need to be the one who takes accountability for his actions every single day. And that's exactly what I've done, and that's exactly what you need to do. The only way I've got myself to this point is because of that. You may not be building a business. You may be working for someone. That's absolutely fine. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you want more in life, that you feel like you have more potential to fulfill. Why do you think I was so depressed and sad on my way back home on the M25, going in and out of cars? Because I knew that I had more potential. This isn't me. This isn't me. This isn't what I want to do. When was the last time you looked in the mirror of your top off and you thought, this isn't me? How have I let myself go like this? Because the last time I did that, that's when I fixed up my life. That's when I started going to the gym 5 days a week. That's when I started eating healthy, tracking all my calories, making sure all of my shit was on point. You need the hard truth. You need to look in the mirror. You need to understand that that's all you. You got yourself there. But like I said, the beauty of that is that you can get yourself out. Building the physique, building the mentality, building the discipline. That's the type of lifestyle you want. Because that's the type of role model that you want to be. Number one is understanding that you are where you are because of you. Number two is understanding that the future you is going to be a role model to other people. And therefore you need to fix where you are by working on yourself day in, day out. So that's exactly what we need to do. Take accountability and then take action, and you won't look back. 1 year down the line, you'll be looking at yourself in the mirror and you'll see a completely different physique, completely different mindset, completely different person, completely different life. All because you realize that you were in the shit because of you, and you were able to get yourself out the shit because of you.